Inside the rusted shipping container off East 120th Street in Willowbrook, the air thickened with a metallic bite of fear and the sour reek of old motor oil. Emily Harper knelt on the cold concrete floor, wrists bound behind her back with black zip ties that bit into her skin like tiny teeth. The single bare bulb dangling from a frayed cord overhead swung lazily, casting erratic shadows that danced across the corrugated walls. Every creak of the container settling in the night wind felt like footsteps approaching. Her bare left foot espadrille lost in the scramble throbbed where gravel had torn the sole raw. Blood smeared the concrete in small, dark crescents. Jamal Ruiz and Carlos Mendoza stood 10 feet away, silhouettes against the sliver of floodlight leaking under the door. Their argument had escalated from hissed whispers to full-throated snarls, the kind of rage that comes when greed collides with mistrust. Jamal paced in tight circles, hands gesturing wildly, his navy polo now dark with sweat. "I told you 70 to 30, Colonel. I spotted her at LAX, I drove the long way, I set the whole thing up. You just showed up with the truck. That's driver premium." Carlos leaned against a stack of oil drums, arms crossed, the faded MS-13 ink on his neck flexing with every word. "You think this is a tip jar? We said 60 to 40 from the start. You're lucky I'm even cutting you in after that fake breakdown bullshit. If she'd bolted back on Florence, we'd be empty-handed." Emily's breath came in shallow bursts. She tested the zip ties again, nothing gave. Her mind raced through fragments of courtroom testimony she'd once prepped for white-collar cases. Leverage points, psychological cracks, the moment when accomplices turn on each other. The disagreement was her only window. She kept her head down, eyes scanning the floor for anything, a loose nail, a shard of metal, but the container had been swept clean, probably for exactly this purpose. Jamal stopped pacing, jabbing a finger at Carlos. "You're the one who said, high-end target. You said she'd have rich friends who'd pay quick. Now you want to lowball me?" "No. I'm calling the shots on the amount. 150K. Wired to my account first, then we split." Carlos laughed, a short, ugly sound. "Your account? You still got that prepaid card from the last drop? LAPD traces that shit in ours. We use the burner wallets, like always. And it's 100 flat. She's a lawyer, her firm's got insurance, not unlimited cash." Emily's stomach lurched. They knew her profession. Had they gone through her phone already? Her mind flashed to the emergency contacts list. Sarah, Mia, her paralegal at the Century City office. If they'd accessed her email. She forced herself to stay still, listening. The argument devolved into shoving. Jamal lunged first, shoulder-checking Carlos into the drums with a metallic clang that echoed like gunfire. Carlos recovered fast, driving an elbow into Jamal's ribs. They grappled, boots scraping concrete, curses flying in English and Spanish. A phone clattered to the floor. Jamal's screen cracked but still lit. Emily's pulse hammered. If she could reach it. She inched backward, using her heels to drag herself toward the shadows near the far wall. The zip ties cut deeper, warm blood trickling down her palms, but adrenaline numbed the pain. The men were fully entangled now, fists thudding against flesh, neither noticing her slow retreat. She reached the wall, back pressed to cold steel, and twisted until her bound hands brushed something solid, a discarded length of rebar, half buried under a tarp. Not sharp enough to cut zip ties, but heavy. A weapon. Outside, the distant wail of sirens grew louder, not phantom anymore, but closing. A night shift security guard at the neighboring freight yard had seen the F-150 pull in after midnight, two men dragging a struggling woman. He'd waited 5 minutes, then called it in. Possible abduction, female victim, black truck, license plate starting with 4. LAPD's Southwest Division had dispatched units from the 77th Street Station, cruisers rolling code 3 down Imperial Highway. Inside the container, Carlos pinned Jamal against the wall, forearm across his throat. "You're done, Primo. I'll handle the call. You can rot here if you want. Jamal gasped, clawing at the arm. She's worth more alive. You kill her now, we get nothing. Emily seized the moment. She surged forward, rebar clutched in both hands like a baseball bat despite the awkward angle. She swung low, aiming for Carlos's knee. The metal connected with a sickening crack. Carlos howled, staggering sideways, grip loosening on Jamal. Jamal shoved free, coughing, eyes wild. You crazy bitch. Emily didn't stop. She dropped the rebar too heavy to swing again and bolted for the door. Her bare foot slipped in her own blood, but momentum carried her. She rammed her shoulder into the partially ajar container door. It gave with a screech of metal on metal. She burst into the yard. Floodlights blinded her. Gravel bit into her feet like glass. The F-150 sat 20 yards away, driver's door still open. Sirens screamed closer too, maybe 3 units, lights strobing blue and red across the stacked containers. Emily ran blind, lungs burning, toward the chain-link fence at the yard's edge. Barbed wire crowned the top, but she didn't care. Freedom was on the other side. Behind her, footsteps pounded. Carlos, limping but furious. Jamal, recovering, shouting her name like a curse. She reached the fence, fingers hooking wire. Pain lanced through her palms as barbs tore skin. She hauled herself up, one agonizing pull at a time, zip ties scraping steel. Halfway over, a hand clamped her ankle. Carlos, face contorted in rage. He yanked. Emily kicked backward, heel connecting with his jaw. He grunted, grip slipping. She tumbled over the top, landing hard on the shoulder of East 120th Street. Asphalt met her ribs, knocking the air out. Headlights swept the road, LAPD black and whites screeching to a halt. Officers spilled out, weapons drawn. Hands. Show me hands. Emily raised her bound wrists, sobbing now, the dam breaking. Help please, they're in there. Officers swarmed. 2 tackled Carlos as he tried to climb the fence after her. Jamal, seeing the cavalry arrive, sprinted toward the F-150. A 3rd officer cut him off, shouting commands. Jamal dropped to his knees, hands behind his head. They cuffed both men on the gravel, faces pressed to the ground. Emily sat on the curb as a female officer, Sergeant Maria Delgado, badge number 3872, snipped the zip ties with trauma shears. You're safe now, ma'am. Just breathe. Paramedics arrived minutes later, wrapping Emily in a scratchy blanket, tending the cuts on her feet and hands. She gave her statement in fragments. The wrong route on the 105, the fake breakdown, the switch to Carlos's truck, the container, the fight over money. Her phone, recovered from the F-150's console, still held the unsent text to Sarah. The ransom call had never gone out. Greed had bought her the seconds she needed. By 2:17 a.m., Jamal Ruiz and Carlos Mendoza sat in separate cruisers headed to the Southwest Division Jail. Detectives would later uncover a string of smaller hustles: fake breakdowns in Inglewood, staged accidents in Compton, a 2021 purse grab in Downey that never made headlines. This time, the target had been too expensive, too visible, too lucky. Emily rode in an ambulance to Cedars-Sinai, where doctors stitched her foot and treated the lacerations. Sarah and Mia arrived by dawn, summoned by panicked calls from the LAPD. The 3 friends clung together in the sterile room, tears mixing with sterile saline. In the weeks that followed, Emily testified at the preliminary hearing in the Clara Shortridge Falls Criminal Justice Center downtown. Jamal and Carlos faced charges of kidnapping for ransom, conspiracy, false imprisonment, and assault with a deadly weapon. Both pleaded not guilty, but the evidence dashboard cam footage angled just wrong, texts on burner phones, the security guard's 911 call was damning. Prosecutors offered no deals. Sentencing loomed at 10 to life. Emily never took an Uber alone again. She sold her Brentwood condo, moved to a gated community in Pacific Palisades, traded silk blouses for hoodies that hid the scars on her wrists. The vacation tan faded, but the memory of that endless ride never did. The city moved on. LAX pickups snarled as always. The 105 carried its invisible traffic of secrets, but for Emily Harper, every shadow on Sunset Boulevard still whispered the same warning. Trust is a luxury the city rarely affords. Word count: 1,042. If you enjoyed this true crime narrative and want to read more gripping, detailed stories like this one, consider subscribing for exclusive access to future parts, bonus case files, and early releases. Your support helps bring these shadowed tales to light. Subscribe now.